cake and eat it too.
But what happened? Because the United States had the foundations for this to be prevented. I understand in Latin America we've never had that. Like our legislative system, as you explained here in Ocon, Yaron, comes from the continental viewpoint. It doesn't come from the Anglo-Saxon viewpoint of the importance of private property and individual rights. So wasn't Marx right? Maybe capitalism has the seed that self-destroys itself, that after some generations pass and they live rich and wealthy, they forget how hard it is to get there. So then you have new generations that say, wait a minute, why don't we just like redistribute wealth?
So the challenge with the United States is that it was founded with these fantastic political ideas on a foundation that is equivalent to quicksand. And this is why you can't just pick and choose what you like out of philosophy. Philosophy is a whole. And when you get the politics right, but you get everything else wrong, it's not going to last. And I don't blame the founding fathers for this, because they didn't have a complete philosophy, and there was no philosophers articulating a foundation for liberty. So to a large extent, the Enlightenment, that whole period, is building a beautiful city on quicksand. And that quicksand is the morality of altruism. It is the fact that they don't have a complete philosophical defense of reason. They don't understand the link between reason between reason and individual rights. And really, the only philosopher who's provided us with a system, an integrated system, from politics all the way down to metaphysics, that integrates it all and provides what I consider, a real, concrete and metal foundation for the ideas of capitalism is Ayn Rand. And since the founding fathers came before Ayn Rand, you can't blame them for what they did. They did the best that they could with the tools that they had. But it truly is a tragedy that we didn't have it.
Yeah, so I have like a few different things to say here. So first, going back to Marx himself, so maybe capitalism, it just spawns its own. Even in the US, we haven't had full, pure, respected capitalism. So, I mean, we had the platform set up for it, but we didn't quite do it. And once you start cheating on it, once you start in with the contradictions, the mixed premises, the mixed economy, it's just, the mix is going to grow. The poison is what spreads in the glass. You put a little drop of poison in here, it's going to pollute gradually, but eventually and steadily, because, well, if he's getting a special favor from the government, I want a special favor. I'm not stupid, right? So once you let in alien premises, that's how it grows and bleeds. But I just want to go back one more. Okay.
Before you go to another point, because this is very important, especially for people that are watching in Latin America, Brazil, Spain. Because there's two conceptions, right? The U.S. has always been capitalist.
I wish.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's one.
Yeah.
And the other one of the people who, study a little bit more, they say, no, everything, there was capitalism until the Civil War and the creation of the Fed. Now you're saying there was never true capitalism.
Not fully, completely. And I'm not an economic historian, I'm a philosopher. But no, we always had a mix of some controls, of some government oversight in terms of the currency and so on.
Well, and if you think about before the Civil War, we had slavery. That's not capitalist. That's anti-capitalist. The South was feudal, and then after the Civil War, it was a period, the freest we've been. But we had regulation of the railroads. We then had antitrust laws in the 1890s. Then we got a Federal Reserve in 1913. But even during that period, from the Civil War until World War I, or until the central bank, we had all kinds of regulations, all kinds of favors, all kinds of cronyism, all kinds of things. Now, it wasn't anywhere near as bad. I wish we had what we had back then, right? It was as close as we've ever come to capitalism, and it's a million times better than what we have today. But we've never had it in pure form, and we've never had, since the founding, there's never been a defense of it. There's never been intellectuals who actually defended. The intellectuals in the 19th century, in a sense, hated the American system, attacked the American system, undermined the American system, certainly post-Civil War. So by the time you get to when you have a central bank and income tax, everybody's ready for it, because the intellectuals have been pounding away that this is evil, this is bad. The progressive, what they called themselves, the progressive movement at that time. But European influences, that little poison, although I think the poison was even there at the founding, slavery, for example, But European influences throughout the 19th century undercut
Yeah.
American capitalism from the very beginning.
And going back to what Yaron was saying earlier, it's the altruism, he was saying
altruism,
the
yeah.
lack of the moral foundation. It's the altruism that undercut us throughout. I mean, earlier we were talking about individual rights, right? The idea of individual rights, among other things, it means your life is yours. Each man is an end in himself. That is incompatible with my thinking, I am my brother's keeper. I have to serve. Give and you shall receive from the Lord, right? If I really think that, that's exactly what's going to make me think, oh, well, he's needy. We have to give to him. So there's that fundamental contradiction between altruism and egoism, such that the defenders of capitalism, right? There are many so-called defenders of capitalism. They're apologists for capitalism, in the sense that they apologize for it. Yeah. It's like, oh, it's not so bad, or oh, look at GNP, or and they'll point out, but they're not getting at that core issue of egoism, altruism, whose life is it?
Yeah, and the essential of capitalism is not GDP, it's not wealth.
Right.
The essential of capitalism is freedom. It's the freedom of the individual to live his life in pursuit of his own happiness. And that contradiction is already in the founders. On the one hand, you've got in the Declaration of Independence, each individual has an inalienable right to pursue their own happiness.
Right.
On the other hand, you've got Thomas Jefferson and others articulating a morality, a Christian morality, a morality of sacrifice, a morality of what's good for the other is the standard of morality. And that undercuts immediately the idea of pursuit of happiness. Right. Because is it the pursuit of happiness or is it the pursuit of other people's happiness? What should actually guide me? And that contradiction in morality then infects the politics.